Good morning. Welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show. I am Steve Weber. I am your host, and I am broadcasting with my broadcast partner, Spirituality Gone Wild, and also broadcasting on the American Gumption YouTube and the American Gumption Facebook page. We are broadcasting live Monday through Friday from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern. All right. So welcome. Yeah, today is show number 59, and it's Wednesday, October 28th. And I've got a fun show prepared for you today. I have a friend and colleague and mentor and coach, Tamra Fleming, going to be joining me in about 15 minutes from now. So very excited to have her come and visit. And she's going to talk about your virtual background. You know, what is it saying? Is it helping you? And is it giving the right message? So anyway, we'll get into that in a few minutes. So that's coming up. I have a monologue prepared. Albatrosses. The story of the albatross. I will dig into that a little bit and tell what some of my own albatrosses were and how I got rid of them the last few years. So that's going to be kind of a fun thing. Now, upcoming shows. Tomorrow, Reverend Wynn Henderson, MD, he is going to talk about his spiritual cure for addiction or addictions. He's got, I think, 25 different addictions that he's identified. And anyway, he helps people, move past them and live a life clean and fresh and with a brand new start. So that'll be tomorrow. And then on Friday, we'll welcome back Brian Gregory. And we're going to he was here last Friday and we talked about his business Admanity and the Admanity protocol. That's a test that he has created that shows what your, if you have your ideal message, or if you have your message or your product that you're, offering to people, and then who your ideal client is, his Admanity protocol will give you language and things to think about in terms of exactly how you want to position and talk about it. And so basically it's an advertising campaign. Admanity is the combination of advertising plus humanity. So it's a better way to connect with your ideal audience. So that's going to be on Friday, and we'll do a deep dive into the actual 150-page test that I have a copy of, that I took the test, and we'll talk about my business as an example. All righty. So I do want to talk about, let's go ahead and jump into the monologue section. Let me change my banner, the American Gumption banner now floating on the bottom. I want to talk about albatrosses. And initially it was called boat anchors and albatrosses, but I thought, well, we'll just focus it on one. But the same idea, we have things in our life that weigh us down. And so now my story is that I was living in Montana for 10, 11, 12 years. And just about 2 years ago, I realized that I had too much things, commitments, stuff weighing me down in Montana that were not allowing me to kind of move into the next phase, the next chapter of my life. And so it's a funny thing, but it really started out with commitments. I had 2 volunteer commitments that I had been involved with for 10 years with service organizations. And I basically, within a 6-month period, ended up getting rid of both of them, saying, hey, I'm done, and I remember at the time feeling like, hey, I'm not an indentured servant. I don't have to do this forever. I had done it for about 10 years and I liked it. And it was good. It was a good community for me to be involved with. But it got to the point where I needed to, to get rid of that. And once I did that, that kind of opened up the floodgate in terms of getting rid of the stuff that I had. And I had equipment and trucks and trailers and vehicles, and I had tools, and I had all kinds of stuff that I started getting rid of it because I realized that, hey, if I'm going to be free to go do what I think I wanted to do, I wasn't 100% sure what that was going to be. I needed to get rid of this stuff. And so I started to say, as I started thinking about that, I thought this stuff is like a boat anchor. It's weighing me down. I don't have as many options when I have all these, commitments and stuff. And then the idea of the albatross came up, and I said, it's an albatross. And so anyway, I did a little bit of research on the actual, the origins. And, we kind of have an instinct like the albatross. I mean, the classic definition in terms of what it means, it's a heavy burden one carries, especially one that accompanies significant guilt. And so I had these burdens that I was carrying with me, and there was guilt around them. And I didn't quite necessarily understand all that at the time, but I felt like I needed to get rid of them. So anyway, as I was looking up and doing the original, I had an idea of, the bird and, the people out at sea, and I didn't quite know the story. So I refreshed my memory, and I remember they called it an idiom, and I'm like, oh, geez, I better look that up. And an idiom is a figurative type of language that isn't, it has a meaning. So it's an analogy, it's a story, it has a meaning, but it's not to be taken literal. And so the literal definition, which you have the bird carcass hanging around your neck, well, that's the albatross. You're carrying that, and you have guilt about it. And so anyway, but we don't literally have a bird carcass hanging around our neck, but we figuratively do have this burden that we're carrying with us. And the way it actually came about was in the 19th century, Samuel Coleridge, his famous poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. And so this poem goes that there's a man out at sea, an older guy who's been his life always working and traveling the oceans, and he, with his crossbow, he shoots an albatross. Well, the story and the folklore around the albatross was the albatross is good luck. It represents like land has to be somewhere you can't see it, but the bird can fly far, and he will, like when you see an albatross, is a good sign because you know that land is somewhere out there in your future. And so anyway, his fellow sailors, because he had shot the albatross and killed it, they forced him to wear the bird carcass, the albatross carcass around his neck, to remind him of the bad deed that he had done. Well, it also, the folklore was that it would bring you bad luck. So this man wearing the albatross carcass, he sees all of his fellow sailors die one by one by one. And so this is now this burden that he's carrying because he has this bad luck. And so he finally comes to realize that the sea life, the birds, they're not like these ugly creatures, but they're these beautiful creatures. And so he kneels to pray at the end of the poem, and the carcass falls off of his neck, and he is relieved of his guilt and his burden that he's been carrying. So that's the literal story. And that's how the idiom originally came about, again, mid-19th century, or at least sometime in the 19th century. And so, the idea, though, of an albatross is it's something that's hanging on, and it's a heavy burden, and there's guilt involved in it. As I thought about all the stuff that I ended up getting rid of and shedding in my life, I came to realize that these things represent the stuff that I had. They all had kind of a common denominator in that they were unfulfilled dreams. They were dreams that I had, that I said, I want to do this. And then I collected stuff in order to do that. But as time went on, I ended up deciding that I lost interest in that project. I lost interest in doing that particular thing, or I outgrew it. I had done, like in the case of the two service organizations that I had been involved with for 10 years, one was in the local community, one was more of a regional professional organization that I was involved with, and they were great things for me for many years, but they had kind of outgrown their usefulness or my interest in it. And so you go, okay, well, it's time to move on. And but you don't have to, like getting rid of them. I kind of had like this feeling of guilt, like I was letting people down, or I had an obligation, or I said I would do this. And well, yeah, I did say I would do it, but I did it for 10 years. And, again, you're not in, I wasn't a servant, indentured servant, having to do it forever, so then you finally start to shift your mindset around it and go, okay, I'm going to get rid of this thing. And you do it with integrity. You clean it up. You don't just leave them standing in the lurch, but you shut it down and you move on. Same thing with the physical stuff. When I got rid of that first burden of the commitment that I had, that's when I went, oh, I could get rid of some of my stuff. That would free me up to go. I'm not going, and I started to realize I'm not going to use these things. I have been carrying them around. Some of them I had been carrying around for as long as 40 years. I had woodworking tools that I wanted to have a wood shop, and I had done a lot of woodworking in my early, in my late teens and early 20s, and that was something that I enjoyed. But as I got into my later 20s and 30s, it kind of, it really wasn't something I did any longer. And so I had these tools with the idea that someday I'm going to set up a shop and I'm going to do it. Well, I moved to Montana believing I was going to set up the shop, and I never did. The tools just sat in an outbuilding for 15 years in the same building. And every time I walked into that building, I went, oh my God, look at all this crap. I gotta set this up and use this. And then I just would turn around and close the door and lock it and, walk away. And I never, I didn't have an interest in doing it because I had outgrown, or I had, it just wasn't something, your interests change. But, you make a commitment, oh, I'm going to do this. And then you decide, well, you know what? I don't want to do it any longer. And then you have guilt about it. And I need to do this, or when you physically see it, you're going, oh, I got to do that. I have to clean, and it was this one particular tool that I had. It wasn't part of the wood shop, but it was another, it was a project. It doesn't even matter what it was, other than the fact that I had spent a whole lot of time, doing this. And it turned out that I didn't quite do it right. And it never quite worked. And I carried it up to Montana with me. And it was a big piece of equipment, and I had to use a forklift to move it around because it wouldn't even run. And every time I saw it, I felt two things. I felt dumb because I had screwed up the project originally and it didn't work, and spent whole kinds of hours doing it. And then the second thing was I thought, oh, I have to fix this. I have to fix it. But I had obviously lost interest in fixing it, and the need to do that no longer. And multiple people had said to me, well, why don't you just get rid of it? And I was like, oh no, I want to fix it. And yet every time I saw it, it reminded me that I have to fix it. Oh, and I screwed it up. And it was that albatross. Literally, it was like, there was guilt, shame hanging around my head. So anyway, I finally, one day, a friend said, why don't you get rid of it? And I was like, he said, just put it on Craigslist and explain what you had done and what was wrong with it and what needed to happen. And somebody will come and buy it from you. And I was like, oh, and I thought, oh, that's kind of like, for whatever reason, it like I realized that time that was true. So I wrote up an ad, took a lot of pictures of it, explained what I had done all those years before, explained how I had screwed up what I had attempted to do and why it didn't work and what needed to be done with it. And I put it on Craigslist, and a week or two later, a guy showed up and he bought it, and he came down with his trailer, and we hauled it up, put it up on the trailer, and away he went and took it away. And then it was never there to remind me of it anymore. And that was like that mental breakthrough I needed. That was when I went, oh, I don't have to do all these projects that I've been holding on to. And it started to free me up to create the future life that I wanted to do. And so that's that's kind of really, that's kind of all I just wanted to talk about today. Our guest coming up, Tamra Fleming. She is in the green room. I see her back there. Hopefully the American Gumption elves have been treating her nicely while she's in the green room waiting. And so anyway, when I was going through that whole process of getting rid of it, Tamra is a friend. I had known her for several years earlier, and I had kind of initiated this all on my own, but she was, doing things specifically around transformation, transforming your life by using the things in your life to create a better future for you. So even though we had been friends for several years and had been, we were aware of what each other were doing in our careers and in our lives, I had started the project of getting rid of stuff almost a full year before she got involved. Well, thankfully, she did get involved, and I'm very grateful for the fact that as I was cleaning out the last of it, which was a lot, because I had a bunch of stuff, she helped me reframe it so that I was getting rid of all of these things with integrity or with purpose or with intention, so that as it went away, it wasn't like you're just getting rid of it, but you're getting rid of it in a way that is kind of opening up a lot of space and creating a new future. And so really for the last 6 months of my time in Montana, she was working very, very closely with me and helping me. And I was through her group, The Meaning of Space and the Space Love Club, I was able to have a group of people who could appreciate the efforts that I was going through. And I was also able to, do some of the processing of like things that I had that were, you want to get rid of them. You don't want to just get rid of things and not clean up your feelings or your thoughts about what you had with it. You want to get rid of them and just be done with it. And have it like kind of neatly wrapped up in a bow and have a nice story around all those things. So that's what happened. So that's the story of the albatross. I literally used that idiom multiple times in the last couple of years. I said all that stuff just felt like an albatross. I was stuck. I couldn't move forward with my life, and now those things are a full year behind me. All righty, so that is that. Let's go ahead and see if Tamra is ready to join us here. Good morning, Tamra Fleming. How are you? Welcome.
Now I'm got to get my background right. Let's see. Is that good? That'll be good.
Oh yeah. You need a good background for what we're going to talk about today. Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
Well, good. Well, welcome to the show. This is your first time here, so there's a special protocol that we follow. And what happens is I have a little intro that I'd like to read and just let people know who you are. And then I have a special song that I play, which I call the first time guest on the American Gumption show welcoming song. So we'll play that song. And if you come back again a second time, which some people do, then we don't play the song ever again. So this is going to be a one-time treat for you.
Beautiful.
All righty. So let me tell people who you are. Tamra Fleming is the creator of a transformational personal growth process that comes from aligning people's physical living spaces to the vision they have for their life. For more than 20 years, Tamra has been fascinated by the relationship between life and space. And she has developed her own philosophy, which she calls the meaning of space. Oh, in fact, let's go ahead and throw up your ticker banner there so that we can let people know who you are. There it is, meaningofspace.com and tamrafleming.com.
We've got meaning of space, and I think that's really appropriate. Meaning of space is supposed to be, but I think that we'll talk about that because it's all about peace.
We'll fix that, but we'll momentarily leave that as peace.
There are no accidents.
All righty. So this wasn't an accident that she stumbled into the meaning of space, because prior to this, she had been studying and training in multiple disciplines that led her to the meaning of space. And those disciplines included energy coaching, feng shui, the Chinese 5-element theory, space cleaning, and color theory. And she also had her own personal experience traveling the world and seeing environments all across the globe and how people were living their lives. So Tamra works with go-getters in transition and helps them get clear on their purpose, their meaning, and the impact they want to make on the world. I love that. And I'll throw myself into one of those go-getter categories just for fun. But yeah, we got to get clear on our purpose and our meaning and what impact we want to make. So that's a beautiful thing. So over the course of her career, Tamra has done life coaching, leadership development, executive coaching, public speaking, and she is the author of a book, Upswing, 80 Mindful Practices to Shift Your Life from Blues to Bliss. I like that. I like the blues to bliss part. That's good.
It is good, Steve Weber.
All righty. So Tamra lives in the beautiful Bitterroot Valley in western Montana. And since 2014, I've had the privilege of calling her friend, coach, mentor, and mentee. So Tamra Fleming, welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show.
Thank you. So excited to be here. I'm so excited because I'm inside your dream. And
Yeah.
you know, the journey that you just described to get here, amazing. So
Yeah.
it's really fun to be here. I'm so excited.
In some ways, I thought you should have been one of my very first guests on the show, but that's okay. There's no accidents. Everything works exactly as divine is supposed to have it happening, and so here we are. So anyway, let's play that song, and then we'll get into our conversation. Have you ever had a marching band welcome you onto a show before?
No, I've been in a marching band, but never had one welcome me.
Well, good. We like to do something special as we welcome our first-time guest in. So we bring out the whole band and lead them down the parade, the street in a parade, and welcome them right into the studio. So welcome.
Woohoo!
So I did fix the meaning of space.com, but really, what you're doing is you're bringing peace to people by working with their space. And so I had the meaning of peace. And so just, do a quick little introduction of the peace that you can bring people, because I think it's a nice little jumping off point. We don't have to go too far into it now. Just a quick overview. Okay. We got a lot to go through.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So the whole idea is behind that everything that surrounds you is part of your past, and that you can actually change it to change what's going on in your future. Because when you look around your place, your home, it reminds you of things. It elicits emotion. And so what we want it to elicit is positive emotion that's moving you forward in your life, creating you into the person you want to be, not the person that you've been.
Yeah, I love that. And I remember as you were coaching me, you would say, "Why do you have this?" And I'd be like, I don't know. I literally, I just had stuff. And I think that's part of everybody's story, is that they have stuff and you collect it, and then you feel like you can't get rid of it, or you feel like and so there's no intention. Some of it does. I mean, clearly some things do, but there's a lot of stuff. We have too much stuff, and, it's just clutter, and my goodness.
Yep, we live in a consumer society in the United States especially, and thank you for mentioning my trip around the world, because when I came back from being gone as an American for a year, and I came back into the United States, I saw it. I mean, it was like over the top. Like, walked into a grocery store and said to myself, why do we need 40 options for mustard? Really? So you can see it right there. And that consumer attitude and the wealth really in our country, and the addiction to buying, has created this huge problem where we even have gone as far as having I don't know the number right now, but millions of storage units to store what we can't store in our houses. So it's a huge actual problem. But more than that, for the human psyche, it is about that we've made it about the outside of us versus the inside of us. And the truth is, your surroundings shape your thinking. And so when you decide what to do, and so I love what you were talking about earlier about your vision, your dreams, because Dr. Joe Dispenza, thank you, Steve, hooked me up with his information about this, says that your environment can shape your emotional states, and your emotional states are what create your life. So when we use our environment as a living vision map, literally, and there's a trick to that, but when we start to align ourselves to where we want to go in the future instead of where we've been in the past, we start to manifest more of what we want. We manifest the dreams that we want. So your home is like a living vision map. And when you let go of your dreams, that was a very, very big shift in your life because you had a lot of dreams that you were letting go of. But if you hadn't let go of those, you would not be here today.
Yeah, no. It was great, and it was funny as you mentioned the storage units. I thought I was being clever because I moved to a property in Montana that had several outbuildings, so I didn't need to go get a storage unit off site. I had all these storage units right on the site, and yet, as I mentioned, I would walk into them, and they would represent a dream, and I would like turn around and walk out and lock the door and go, I'll deal with this later. And for years, it was this burden or the albatross that was just like I have to do this. I have to do this. And when I kind of unpacked that story, it was a 40-year story. I made the decision when I was like 18 or 19 that I was going to do a wood shop. Well, nothing wrong with that decision. And it actually took me to Montana, the vision of that. And that was a very good time for me. But ultimately, I realized I didn't have the vision of the dream of creating things out of wood. It's just who has time or energy or effort at this point. I just, you move on with your dreams, but you don't want to give up. You don't want to quit. There's shame involved in letting go of these things.
There's shame involved in keeping these things too. Because a lot of times we're doing some heavy duty research right now on what are the real problems that people are dealing with now that we're all sequestered in our houses. And it's really interesting. And one of the words that came up the most is frustration, irritation, overwhelm. So right there, all we have to do is simplify. All we have to do is align. And this is why I start my process with your vision. You have to understand your purpose of where you're going next, where you're choosing to go next, to be able to have something to align your space to. You can clutter clear, but let me tell you, if you just get into clutter clearing, you're going to clutter clear once or twice or 10 times, and you're never going to make the emotional headway that makes the difference, that makes the change. And the emotions are what creates, your future, what you want. Yeah.
And that was really the biggest gift you gave me a year ago is with the Meaning of Space group and the Space Love Club and that community of people. I was able to go through that process of getting rid of things and sharing it with a group of people who were like kind of cheering me on, but also allowing like that healing or that letting go or purging in a way that, if you just, most people don't get that or think about it. So anyway, you've created a special group of people that care about using their space and their place to create the future they want.
Right. And with that said, we can't leave shame hanging out there because there are really strong emotions that happen. Shame, self-worth, lack of self-worth, all these things keep you stuck. And so one of the main core principles in this work is to not judge yourself. No criticism, just pure love. We love each other. We love the space. And really what we're doing is we're coming into relationship with the space just as you would if it was a partner. It's that important to your well-being. And so when you treat your space like you would somebody you love, you do different things, you choose different things, and it doesn't become about the shame of being a clutterer or the shame of being disorganized or the shame of just having too much stuff and no mission in life. All of that we leave behind, because people don't learn and change when they're under stress or negative emotion. They have to feel good about who they are, where they're at, so they can make the changes that are key. And we just did a 5-week experience called Reweek, and it was new. And I led people through this process that's now actually going to become a course. And it was amazing to watch in 5 days how you could absolutely make lasting, forever change in your life for yourself and for your family. Because
Yeah,
you live together, right? Most of us do live with someone else. Yeah.
yeah. I've done your 5-week or your 5-day re-weeks, and they've always been helpful, and they've always been perfectly timed for me. I know you do them about quarterly. They're not something that happens, every month or but the beauty of it is that it's like a 1 week, the 5 days, and you really just make an intention, and you kind of take one piece of your life and you just make a transformation in that one piece. And it's just the discipline and the camaraderie and the group people who are all involved with it, cheering each other on. It's just a nice way to do it, because it's hard to do it on your own otherwise.
It is really hard to do it, and this is why there's minimalism, there's, clutter groups, there's organizing group, there's all these groups out there now, which are thriving because of this very thing, that we would rather do it together, but we want to do it together in love and not be judged. And so that's, again, I just have to lay that principle over the top of this, because it's like I have an adult learning or learning theory background, instructional design. And if people are stressed out, they shut down. If people feel judged, they shut down. So this is about transformation of your life. So you want to open up. Well, which way do you open up? You will open up by not making everything such a big deal, but making it doable. You had a huge task in front of you. When I went up to your house, and I've been to your house multiple times, but in this case, when I went to your house and saw what you were facing in the time frame that you were giving yourself, that's really where I kicked in and went, okay, there's an emotional journey you're going to go through here. You need to give credence to, and there's a getting rid of stuff journey, which was a really big job, and you did fantastic. I mean, you just traveled from day to day, and you went through that journey of getting rid of stuff. And I kept telling you, okay, here's how it's going to feel now, and then you're going to hit a point where you're not going to care to even really look what's in a box that you've kept for 20 years. You're going to open it, but you're not going to spend a lot of time with it. Talk about that, because there is a tipping point where we realize the stuff we've kept doesn't have as much meaning as we thought.
Yeah, I never thought of myself as somebody who just collected, like what's the word for the person who goes crazy and has everything, like a hoarder. I didn't think I was a hoarder. I thought all the stuff had kind of a purpose, but I had just way too many purposes and too many unfulfilled projects started that, I'm going to do this. So it wasn't like I had a bunch of stuff that had no meaning at all. I had stuff that had some kind of meaning, but a lot of it didn't have a whole lot of meaning. And so as I went into it, and you asked me to comment on that tipping point, I remember one day I said to you, I don't even want to do this. I just want to go to my I want to just magically transport myself 2 months into the future when this is all done, and I can start my new projects and not have to worry about it. And I remember you said, you won't feel good about, and you won't release the energy of it if you don't go through the process. And so I was kind of like, okay, I'll do it. And I did it. And I'm very grateful that I did do it, because the key thing for me was that I not only got rid of it all, but I did it in a way that was with some integrity, in the sense that I didn't just take loads and loads to the dump. I made every effort to get rid of it when I couldn't sell things. I was able to just take them down and give them to charity groups. And when it finally came to the end, I took a couple trips to the dump, but not much.
Yeah. Yeah, you actually were like the most perfect student of all to watch you go through because it was such a huge project and it was so emotional, really. And, that's the whole point. We can like start clutter clearing because we're sick of all the stuff in our house. And then I'll tell you a quick story about that. And then we can not realize what just happened. And the whole point isn't about the stuff, it's about you. It's about your dreams, your decisions, your past. We talked about tying up loose ends,
Mm,
close the doors before you go into your next vision, because if you don't, you're going to be dragging that energy behind you.
yeah.
So there's so many subtle elements to our stuff, but it's as vast as Carl Jung actually is part of my training program, because he really actually, when he was living in his house at Lake on in Boligen at Lake Zurich, he wrote about how his house was being built in alignment with his psyche. And so that's part of some of the studies when I started trying to figure out what I was really seeing here. Who's done research on this? Where does this live? Is it live in architecture? Yes, there is. I found a guy on TED Talk yesterday called Mike Murphy, who's an architect. Got to look him up. Amazing, amazing person. Same exact things coming out of his mouth. So he's somebody I want to connect. And I hadn't heard about him, but he built the Memorial for War and Peace
Mm,
in Alabama. Is that where it is? Yeah, I think so. Mobile, Alabama. Really, the relationship that we have with the things around us tells a story. And I know we're going to talk today about Zoom backgrounds, because one of the things that happened in our experience is that too. And your background tells a story about who you are. And so if you just take that as a symbol, like what story is it telling? Is it in alignment with, ooh, right there we go. I'm going to move my, that's my office thing. I'm going to move mine here. So, this is a good example here. Let me just go. So there's my stuff that's right beside me that nobody sees when I'm on camera. That's my handy stuff. And then this is what people see when they're on camera. And so I'll just tilt it up, and I have a project that I just did right here for a class. So that would not normally be here. But you see that this starts to tell a story about me, and it's in alignment with my work. In other words, I say that the things that are behind you in your Zoom background are telling your viewers a story about who you are. If it's not what you want your viewers to see, then remove it from the background. And we joke, that there are people calling it background shame right now, and that's not the point, to feel bad about your background, but it's basically to understand that everything about you visually now is telling a story. And so is it in alignment with the message that you want it to give? So take it away, Steve, because you were my first project. Yeah.
It's funny because when things locked down a couple of months ago, like all of the people that were on TV, broadcasters, were now broadcasting from their home. And so you're instantly like looking to see like, well, what is it? And oh, look, they're in their basement. You're figuring out this. And you could see that it was just, some of them had it like sort of some kind of a resemblance of like a nice looking place, and other ones you could just see that they had plopped themselves down wherever they plopped themselves down, and they became a lot more real in a way because of this, instead of like that studio background that they saw. Mm-hmm. So and now what was funny was we had a call a couple of weeks ago. And after we finished what we were our purpose, you said, "Oh, do you want to have some coaching about your background?" And I was like, maybe. And so anyway, I had a background, and so we can use this as an example. We can talk about it, and we like within about 10 or 15 minutes, I ended up rearranging certain things with your guidance and your help, and I don't have the picture of the before, but it's very similar, but there's a few things that are now no longer there, and there's a few things that are here now. And so maybe tell, what did you see when you were looking at it?
Yeah. So my work, and I've been doing this for 20 years, so I'm really astute at it. seeing. So my work is listening to someone and then observing what's in their space and seeing where there's a match or a mismatch. It's pretty easy, and I can train you how to do it too. And so when I was watching you, this is your dream. Of course, I'm following you along. I know your intention. I've heard your vision. I didn't need to do your vision because I know it, where you're headed with this. And I was looking at your background, and there was a distraction in the background. And then I'm an intuitive, so I tuned in, and it's like, oh yeah, this has got to be let go. This is a letting go piece. And behind where that suitcase is right now was a big map of a metal art piece, a beautiful art piece of the state of Montana. Yeah, okay, you got it right there. Okay, now this is a really good, isn't that gorgeous? That is just, I just love that. It's a beautiful, beautiful art piece, which is art. You want to honor it in your life. It's part of your story. And so that was behind your head. And yeah, it was up there, and it was looming over your dream in the future. It was holding this energy there. And what my noticing was intuitively was, Steve, is it time, because I'm a coach, I'm going to ask you the question, is it time to let Montana go? Your story of Montana is part of the story, but it's not part of the energy of what you're focusing on now. What are you holding on to in the back, literally? It's very literal. So we had that conversation. So talking to that.
Yeah. So you asked me, what is Montana representing for you? And my first reaction was, I love the thing. I love Montana. I loved my 10 years there. And as because we had done enough work over the last, couple of years together, I was able to just actually think about that. And I went, oh my gosh, Montana is representing really a time of transition in my life, major transition. And all I could come up with as far as why it belonged there was because it was saying how I got to where I was today.
Right.
And that's a good story. How I got to where I was today is a great story, but it's not the future story that I wanted to share. And so I instantly went, okay, Montana has to go. And I took it away, and I moved it off to the side, and I'll find a spot for it. So and so I wasn't sure what to put there. And then I ended up having this. It's just a piece of an old suitcase that I had from, it's my original suitcase from Forrest Gump, and it was broken and it was falling apart. And when I broke it apart, I kept this side panel, and I thought I could put that, maybe attach some things to it or whatever. And so anyway, I knew, I was instinctively didn't want to get rid of it and throw it away. So now what it represents is the blank slate of the future. And I always talk about the blank slate or the blank piece of paper, and you can write whatever you want on it. And so for right now, because I don't have a better vision to put there, it represents that like everything that's to come.
Oh, okay, so this is so metaphorical, right? And you're always just the best. Steve, you helped me name my book Upswing, and you helped me. You and I play a dance together in making magic, in living our dreams. That's the truth. So this experience with you, I didn't mean to intrude in your life. Of course, you would. I wouldn't do that as a coach, but I know you. So it was like, okay, let's do this, because this is your next layer of space, even though your space is really downsized. So now behind you, there's a story of everything. I know you're working on the image of everything that you're doing, and you're playing with it and everything. And we played with it a little bit, but now I see your background, and I see Forrest Gump. That's what I see. And it's clean, it's clear, it's a clear message. And you're on air, you're on visual every single day of the week, for the most part, except for the weekend, right? But anyway, you're recording this over and over. So people are seeing this. This is your brand. This is your message. And it's really authentically you. And I just want to say, I am so not a fan of fake backgrounds, of the Zoom fake backgrounds, unless they are a branded part of your message. So that's the only situation where I say, yeah, go for that, because that makes total sense if you're in a launch or you're doing something. But because people do want to know you, they want to get to know, like, they want to get to like, know, and trust you. And if they see something in your background that is incongruent with them or incongruent with you, it throws them off, and everything you're saying becomes lost. And so it has to either be, if it's a distraction, be removed or changed. I'm doing some more people right now in the virtual redo, which we just released basically today. And it's a 30-minute session now because I've learned it takes a little bit more time. But what I've learned is that people want to show who they are, but that isn't necessarily, if you're in business, for instance, who you want to, what you want to show on screen in terms of your message. It's the most dynamic branding tool that we could possibly have. So if that's your mission and your vision, which I would find out right away, ask you 3 key questions in the beginning of the interview, ahead of time actually, and you answer those, then I dig into your vision, and then we align your background to your business if that's what you're doing. If it's a personal background, we just talk about the story that you want to tell people. What do you want people to know about you? And there's a book, and I don't have it handy right here. Well, let's see. Hold on a second. Oh yeah. Here it is. I never talk about this book, but it's called Snoop. And it's a scary look at this whole thing. But the truth is, people are voyeurs. And so, like, when all the newscasters came on in their backgrounds, what do you think we were doing? We were like looking at their backgrounds to see if we could find out who they really were. Like, what's the truth of them outside the newscaster studio, right? So there's this blend between who I am as a person, what I want to express authentically, and what I'm doing in my business or my mission or my message, and how that's congruent with who I am. And I've gone through. Let me pause there, because that is huge. So my husband and I were sitting on the sofa, and we've done this so many times. I have all these screenshots of the TV, watching people with their backgrounds of what's there and what's working and what's not working. And then I found on Twitter this husband and wife just started doing what's called room rater, and on Twitter, and they do all these backgrounds and they rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. It's hilarious. But when I started looking, they've got everybody on there, Obama and everybody. When you start looking at what they're saying, it's true, because it's the psyche. It's the human way we interpret. We fill in blanks where we don't have truth. So the whole idea here is to put as much truth that you want to express, not fake, your authenticness in your background, so that the message is aligned with your authentic vision, your authentic passion, your authentic truth, your life story. Yeah, it became so obvious to me, and I thought, oh my God, right now I can actually help people make over their backgrounds to bring this into alignment, so that the snooping becomes powerful.
Yeah, no, we all, subconsciously, you just instantly start looking around like, well, who is this person? What do they have back there? What's going on? And then the other thing is, are they even, you and I are professionally broadcasting on a regular basis, so we're obviously a little bit more aware, and we're a little bit more aware of our presence on the camera. But people like hiding off in the corner, and like the ceiling up above. I mean, it's crazy what either there's no awareness, or there's like some kind of denial of awareness. I don't know what it is, but
I think it all comes down. I have a style quiz on meaning of space that's free. And if you take that, it starts to tell you kind of who you are. And I'm using that, if somebody comes to the session having taken that, I'll use their style to kind of shape how their space might look behind them that's more congruent. Congruency is huge. When we are congruent with a message or how we're showing up, we are listened to, because you're not looking at. Let me back up here. When I first started 20 years ago learning how to do the style of energy-based coaching I do, here's what we did. And this is where it all started probably, and I didn't even know it. We filmed the face before a visioning interview in controlled lighting, and then we filmed the face after the visioning interview, and you would not believe how the body will morph. When you're out of your dreams, you're contracted, you're dark, you're out of balance. The two sides of your face can be really wonky. And when you are in your heart and in your passion and in your dream, your body literally starts to rebalance itself based from your heart passion. So that's part of the visioning part that I do, the reason why. So if you think about how the body reacts, then all you have to do is apply that to the space and things start to come into balance. Now, this isn't about, I want to put a piece of art behind me that I love because I love it, but it's like screaming a message that people could interpret a different way that conflicts with your message. So you got to think about it in two ways. How do I want to express myself, tell my story, and how do I want to tell the mission or the vision that I'm on? So a couple of people that I've done, both of them deal with very high end of clients, and they do fundraising for investors and things like that. So when I look at you, if I'm going to give you, $1 million, what do I want to see in your background? You have to address it, because if you don't, that person is deciding whether or not they can trust you. They with their money, whether they think you are going to deliver what they are investing in, or whether they think you're a flake. I mean, I hate to be so blunt, but it's the way people judge, and they judge every single day, all day long. Now we have this little box of a window where people are doing that every day. So if you're looking up at the camera, down at the camera, if you can't see your face, if the sun's behind you, but your face is dark, lighting is huge. So this is turning into a way bigger thing than I thought it would, because it's our life. At least for the next probably year, we're going to be sitting here like this,
Yeah. So anyone who's a professional who is working with other people, who cares about the impression that they're making with people, then I want you to take the free space assessment that Tamra offers on meaningofspace.com. There's a link right there at the beginning. And then there's also a link for her virtual redo, but you can use the URL that's listed, virtual-redo, and you'll go to the page that describes exactly what she's offering. So this is something that I've experienced and I recommend, and it's been super helpful to me. I want to, if it's okay, I'll just share one other thing that had to go from the background, and I've got it right here, and it's Wilson, and we loved Wilson, and I've had this for years, and I love it because it just makes me smile and feel good. And so when I created my background, I threw it up there. And I remember I was on a call and someone said, "Oh, I saw your background. Oh, you must be a Tom Hanks super freak." And then you and I had that conversation, and it's obviously, I was Forrest Gump for 15 years for Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. So and then my message is Gumption and the 3 life lessons from the movie. And so that explains the Gump part of it. But, I like Tom Hanks and admire him as an actor and all of his whole body of work, but it's all been around the one movie. It's not been around. And so even though Wilson is cute and makes people smile, it's like leaving the impression that I'm some kind of a, super freak that way. So once I saw that way, I went, oh, that has to go away.
Yeah. It always helps to have somebody look at your background from an objective point of view. I take a screenshot of, I'm actually going to do that right now, because this is a little bit of your after. You take a screenshot of where you are, and then we just mine through it. We talk about it. It's only, really about a 4 or 5 foot by 3 foot space. Right. So it's not like making over your whole house, but it has to be in integrity with who you are, what you're doing, so that people feel that.
Yeah.
Now I know your story. Every single one of those pieces in there is something that you're telling a story about that experience. It's your mission. This is who American Gumption Morning Show. It's what built your, there is no way, and Steve Weber knows this, there is no way that you could not be this today, because this was so much a part of your life makeup. It's true. And people just want to learn about it. They want to hear your story, and they want to learn about it, and everybody loves, I don't know anybody that doesn't love Forrest Gump and the messages you send. So
yeah. Thank you, Tamra. Now you had given me an assignment, and you said, well, what do you want to put up there, and think about it. And I want to do a screen share, if that's okay, because I've created 5 images that I've now put on my, let's go ahead and take the virtual redo off. Alrighty. So these images are now my screensaver on screen number 2, and they're just rotating through every 5 minutes. And what they're doing is they are, for my sole purpose, they're like, I'm imagining where I'm going with this whole thing. And so the next slide that I created was, I'm obviously, I love our country. I appreciate the wealth that we have and the unique opportunity in the world that we possess. And so anyway, I just like the flag. I've seen this before, and I had the American Gumption brand. And so I threw that up there. And then my tagline just fit perfectly: ordinary individuals living extraordinary lives. And then like a divine inspiration was like, I just threw the "we the people" up there at the top. And then that became like, oh my gosh, that might be part of this theme. And then this next slide is really showing the actual journey that I'll be taking across as I live in the RV and I travel about, because it shows the different states and the map, like some major roads and stuff. Whereas the one before that, this one kind of can show the big picture, but this one actually makes it a little more real in terms of how you might be traveling about and doing it. And then I just created one that showed couples being happy, because we all want to be happy. And I just picked out pictures that kind of resonated. Here's a picture of a upper left corner, a couple sitting on the bench. Well, that kind of is like the Forrest Gump bench, and then cooking in the lower right-hand corner, and the couple in the upper right-hand corner, kind of like looking off into the future. And so it's just like a collection of pictures that way. And then the last one I'll just show and share. Here we go. Is I wrote about spirituality gone wild. My broadcast partner and a friend of mine, or someone I interviewed, she is familiar with this world that I'm now really becoming more of a part of. And she said to me, she goes, spirituality gone wild is the perfect partner for you. And she maybe didn't say it, but I heard it this way. She said, you attached your cart to the right horse, meaning spirituality gone wild is the right is the right partner for me to help pull me into this future. And of course, my little wagon there is like, that's the American Gumption brand, like moving along. So this one was really kind of fun and powerful. And so anyway, I just wanted to share those with you. And, it's fun.
That is a really great subliminal. You may want to have that in your background. This is, you are pioneer. I mean, this has so many subliminal messages in it. Like it's pioneering. So you never know what's coming, which makes people curious, right?
Yeah.
It's about the adventure. It's about the beauty. What a beautiful picture. How awesome. I love that. I love the whole thing. So all of your symbology then is flashing on your screen.
Correct.
That is beautiful. That is really, really powerful stuff, because that's what you're creating. I can't wait to see where you go with this, because we can manifest anything we want. So moving from a cluttered house to moving into our dreams, there's a process, there's a path, and you can do it. So I just want to say that there is a process and a path.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, we're just about at the top of the hour, so we'll wrap up. But I want to remind people to go to meaningofspace.com and to take the space. Describe what it is exactly that they'll be taking.
Is all about, it's actually was geared towards women, but I've had plenty of men take it, so don't let that stop you. And it tells you about your style, your space personality, and it brings you kind of in relationship. The whole idea behind it is it brings you into relationship with who you really are. Now we're working on what comes after the quiz. So, so you just really, the best thing to do right now, because we're building the Meaning of Space world, is to jump into the Meaning of Space community Facebook group. Just go in there and we'll get you in there. And then I do lives every week and I talk about this. And there's things, there are new things that are coming shortly here that help explain how you can go about doing it. I do a lot of challenges. I do a lot of teaching. I do a lot on my lives every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, and 1 p.m. Eastern Time on this topic. And I throw things in that are current about what kind of things that you might want to be thinking about paying attention to. So it's a great way to get exposure and learn. Yeah, join the world.
Well, good. So, and if you are a professional who wants to make sure that your background is in alignment, then go ahead and click on this page and find out what it is and schedule a time to talk to Tamra so that you can, this doesn't take long. This isn't hard. It's just like she just asks some questions, and if you're honest with yourself, you can go, no, I got to get rid of this. I mean, Wilson was cool, but he doesn't belong there, and he belongs somewhere else. And so anyway, so thank you, Tamra, for joining us today. We will see each other again. You'll have to come back to the American Gumption morning show at some point in the future, and we'll continue this conversation, because the body of work that you're creating and doing is this was a great little tease and kind of intro and starter, but there's just a whole lot more to talk about.
There's a lot. And thanks for having me today. And I hope it helps some people really rethink their backgrounds.
Yeah. Well, very good. Well, yeah. So any last things you want to say before we say goodbye?
No, just know that your space and you are in relationship. So start loving each other.
There you go. And you will have, if you get your space in the right place, you will have peace.
That's right. You'll have space. We love this. Meaning of peace.
We went full circle with today.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
All right, Tamra, we'll see you again. Thanks for coming.
Bye for now.
All right. Well, that was Tamra Fleming, a dear friend, a coach, a mentor, and mentee. We've been working together for the last 6 years, and it's just been a lot of fun. And she has helped me more than I can possibly say thank you for. So thank you, Tamra. All righty. So tomorrow, Reverend Wynn Henderson, MD, Spiritual Cure for Addiction. And Friday, we're going to have Brian Gregory back at the Admanity Protocol deep dive. We spoke with Brian last week, and his whole thing is like, you're talking, you're communicating a message. So if you know what your product is and you know who your audience and who you want to attract is, he has the Admanity Protocol is all about aligning those two. It's advertising plus humanity. So it's heart-centered advertising. All righty. So that's coming up on Friday. We will see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.